Train ride that hopes to thrill you a little and chill you a little. Patience as we pull into Death Station.
Well, hello. I am your conductor for this Horror Express train. We have no scheduled stops, and of course riding it is at your own risk. On today's train ride, Jason and Ron are together, which is a good thing because the Hellhounds missed Jason a lot. I guess Ron was a poor substitute for their Halloween tricks and treats. When Jason told me about today's topic, I was taken aback. They're going to share a real story about a Marionette's hold on a Horror Express listener. So guys, I'm actually interested this time. Also, later on in the show, I'm going to present a scary tale about pipe organs as told by Vincent Price. So boys, if you can do it, let's get this train going.
Jason, make me a promise right here and now.
Okay.
I never have to ride the train alone again.
No, you'll never have to ride the train alone again.
Okay, say it again like you mean it.
You will never have to ride the train alone again, I promise.
Do you know what happened?
No, I did not.
It was crazy, man. Everybody was like coming up, oh, where's Jason? Where's Jason? Oh, let me hug you. And I'm going, no. And then the Hellhounds wanted to play something called Fireball. I don't want to play no game called Fireball with Hellhounds.
No, I wouldn't either. So, good call.
Yeah. So I heard you had a little problem with the conductor when you got back. Something about a hug?
Yeah, he gets a little touchy-feely. I didn't realize that about him, and that's more freaky than he is in himself.
I'm just going to remind you, when we first started coming on the train, we wore hazmat suits just to get the tickets to him?
Yes.
So how did the hug go? How did you handle it?
It's kind of like when somebody that you don't like tries to come up and hug you, you just kind of like grimace and you put your hands really tight to your side and they kind of go around you and you're like, oh yay, nice to see you again. That's kind of like how it went.
The little tap on the back and then back off.
Yes, that's right.
Well, Jason, it has been a long time since we've been on the train here together. I'm looking around the car, and we've got a bigger audience than normal. I'm going to say we've got some ghosts. I see some goblins, and oh, look at that. Is that a chupacabra?
Oh, you know what? I think it is.
It's got no hair.
Or that could just be the conductor too bent over.
Oh, it is. It is the conductor. Oh, he's giving you a nasty look.
Does he give anybody a good look?
You know, I think he's got two looks. Nasty and nastier.
Yeah, and I think that's about the nastiest that you can get, so that's something I won't be able to unsee.
No, let's just put that in the coffers of forgetfulness there and move on.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, Jason. Well, we have got some stuff to talk about today. I am so excited about it. I've been wanting to get it all together into one big package, and we're going to do that today. And it's going to make this podcast, again, about dolls. Is that right? Are we going to talk about dolls again?
One more time, yes we are.
Folks, what happened? And we've been holding this close to the vest because we didn't want to have any outside influences on this. We didn't want to influence it with our own ideas. We were just going to treat this like it was something that we could help with. There was a gentleman that contacted the show. His name is David Larsen, and he sent us this email. Hey guys, I've been listening to the RAS and the Horror Express for about a year now, and have gone through the archives and have enjoyed every episode of both podcasts. They have both given me many hours of entertainment, and I want to thank you for that. Now, to my question. I've always been sensitive to the other side. I've encountered my fair share of shadowmen, shades, and orbs. But, like many other fans have said, your haunted dolls story really got to me. Namely, because when I was in the 3rd grade, my uncle was in Afghanistan on tour. He sent home presents for me and my family, including a crooked dagger for my father, a small figurine in a beautiful dress for my sister, and a handmade marionette for me. The marionette was carved to look like a slightly off Pinocchio. Also, it had a broken wooden ankle that dragged limply behind it but just wouldn't fall off. For some reason, even after writing this, my heart races and makes me disconcerted and terrified. Since I got it roughly 10 years ago, it has remained in the same box it was shipped to me in. I've had night terrors until I was 18 years old of something similar to this marionette attacking me. Soon after I got it, I wrapped it in a blanket that my grandmother crocheted for me, and I've left it in the box and have only taken it out once since then. It scares me to death, and I do not want it. I don't know if it's something in my imagination, but either way, I do not want it. I want to give it to either of you or rid the world of it, but I don't want it to come back. It scares me, and that's why I never got rid of it. As long as I knew where it was, I knew it just wouldn't show up. So I guess what I'd like to ask is if you or Jason would be willing to take it and rid the world of it. It may sound crazy or silly, but my opinion remains. So that's what we got, Jason, and boy, that sure started a whole series of strange events, I would say. And, well, I'm going to let you tell the next part of that, because I said to him, I flat out wouldn't take it.
Well, crazy man over here said he would. So, one of the things that I am really sympathetic towards are people that are afraid of anything. I don't like when people are afraid of stuff. And I know if this is bothering him, I figured one of two things. It's just all in his imagination, and it'll make him feel better to get rid of it. And if he does that and there's nothing there, great. I have a really cool piece that I can put in some of my photos. On the other hand, if it is something there, I'd like to help him out as much as I can, even if that means just getting it away from him and seeing if I could find out if there's actual energy attached to this doll. And I actually thought it was going to be a great way to train somebody that I've been working with, and she's very excited about the paranormal realm, and I figured, you know what, this is the perfect way of doing this. This is an actually potentially haunted item. So I said, yeah, so go ahead, send it to me. It kind of got crazy after that because he said he would do it, and I waited for it, and I was like starting to wonder, like, what is going on? Why isn't he sending it to me? So finally I get this email that said he sent it in the mail, and I'm like, oh, cool, that's, this is good. So as it arrived on a Thursday, and it just so happens that just 3 days later, Florida got hit by Irene, which was the hardest hit hurricane that Florida's ever had, even over Andrew. And believe it or not, I went through both of them, so I've seen both of them. And wow. It was a pretty intense storm, but ironically, it didn't do too much damage to where I am here. So I was very thankful for that. And then once the storm decided to, passed away, I brought my friend down because she's coming from Ocala to do this. But you know what was really funny, Ron, is when I heard it was coming, I started getting this weird feeling about, I'm like, I could feel something was coming. I didn't know if it was a good energy or a bad energy, but I knew something was just not right. I started having weird nightmares and stuff like that, but I didn't know if that was attached to this doll, like kind of like the calm before the storm, or if this was seriously just my imagination, because I knew that there was a storm hitting. I knew that there was a potentially haunted doll coming to my house. It makes your head kind of go a little weird, too. So,
I don't understand that at all, Jason.
I don't know. I didn't know what to make of it. So I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to say that it has anything to do with the doll. I'm not going to say it has anything to do with the storm. It's just the way it is. But I almost was going to ask him to not send it. But since he already sent it, no big deal. Okay, it's coming. We're good. When I got the thing, I saw this big, huge box outside of my house. I'm like, you know what? I don't remember ordering anything. So I went over there and I opened it up. And when I saw the box of the inside, I was like, oh, yes, that's right. It's the doll. Oh. And this thing had a horrible scent to it. I didn't know what to make out of it. I'm like, oh, my God, is this thing like laced with something? Is this dangerous for me to touch? And I cut it open. Inside this big box, there was a little box. And I'm like, okay, there's nothing, keeping it from bouncing around or anything like that. And I pulled out the little box, and that stunk even worse.
Wow.
It almost burned my nose from smelling it. So I put on some gloves, and when I opened up the smaller box, there was a blanket inside of there. It was covered in mold, and so that's what the smell was. It was mold. So I took that blanket and put it on the side. It was stained. It was just really weird. It kind of gave you like a weird feeling just with that. Then I reached in and found that there was a pillow in there. The pillow had even more stains and even more mold on it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put that to the side right in the trash. I don't know what kind of mold this is. I'm not going to sit there and play with my health. So I threw it in the trash. But inside there, underneath both of those, there was a little piggy bank. Also next to the doll was a McDonald's Beanie Baby, but it was so covered in mold I could not keep that thing either. So I had to throw it away. And then there was the doll. My first impression of the doll was, I don't feel anything negative coming off of this thing. Actually, I thought it was a beautifully done doll. You could tell it was handmade, was not processed by any type of machine or anything like that. So I'm sitting there looking at it, feeling it, trying to see if I could close my eyes, if I could feel anything coming off of it. But initially, I didn't. Anybody that looks at this thing, it looks like a Pinocchio, and it can make you freak out a little bit. I mean, it does. It is a little creepy. I'm not going to deny that. And then I'm like, you know what? What is in that? What is in this piggy bank? It had a TD Bank, U.S. Bank. It had an insignia on the side of it, and so I figured it was kind of a new bank because it looked new. I mean, there was no wear and tear on it. There was no scuff marks or anything like that. I mean, it was very well kept. But I saw something inside of it, and it was not money. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to open it up, and it kind of looked like string, and like a big ball of string. And so I reached in, and when I pulled out the string, I realized that it was a doll. Somebody had made a little yarn doll, and it had a couple of different colors, like yellow, green. It had some red on it, kind of like a rust red. It wasn't like a bright red. And there was like a little gray belt around it, and you could see the arms and the legs and everything like that. That was where I got some energy off of it. I felt that, and I'm like, oh, I know what this is. This is a voodoo doll. So I'm like, okay, now we got something that could potentially be extremely a curse. If somebody believes in curses, it could be a binding doll. It could be something that's actually there to try to ward away any type of negative energy, or it could be something satanic. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on this. So what I did is I brought in a friend of mine that is actually from Cuba and is well versed with the different practices of voodoo and other types of other cultural traditions and stuff like that where they partake in some of these things. And she said that she didn't feel that it was a negative energy doll. She does feel that there was some energy off of it, but nothing negative. I'm like, well, that's interesting, because I looked up some of the colors, and some of the colors on this thing are actually means love, attraction, or power. Green means growth, wealth, money, or fertility. Yellow is success or confidence. And black is negative. It can be negative, but it's also used to dispel energy or to summons it. And I'm like, you know what? When she said that, and then I read this little idea of what the colors stand for, I'm starting to think to myself, you know what? I don't believe that this has anything negative to it. But I did try to contact David himself. And he said he doesn't know anything about it. He's never seen it, didn't know where it came from, and also he also didn't know where the bank was from, but he kind of remembered it. So he thought it was from his grandmother. And I'm like, okay. And then I asked him a little bit more about the doll and what helped freak him out about it. He said he hadn't touched it since there was like a flood, and it got wet. And he goes, the entire thing molded, everything molded, the blanket, the pillow, everything molded but the doll. And when the doll didn't mold, he got freaked out. So that was one of my first things. I'm like, okay, we don't know where the doll came from. He didn't put it there. He didn't know anything about it. And the doll didn't mold. So my first investigation was to figure out why. The doll has a slight lacquer, but it's not a big lacquer. It's probably like more of a like an oil base. So it's designed to protect the wood. Mm-hmm. So of course, mold won't grow on that, and that would be my first debunk. So I knew it wasn't because the thing was possessed that it doesn't grow mold on it. There is a slight piece right underneath the head where there is mold growing, but it's not smooth. It's not sanded down very well, and it does have the ability for that lacquer or whatever it is on there. It is on that particular piece, but because there's a little bit more of a like a rough sandpaper feel to it, it has places where I'm sure that the lacquer did not completely penetrate, and there is some mold on there, but not a lot. The second part is like, okay, the doll. He didn't put it there, but somebody had to physically put it in this box because he didn't touch it.
Well, Jason, I had a little chat with him, and I did get some information about the piggy bank that he did remember.
Okay.
He said he's pretty sure the little red piggy bank was given to him by his grandmother. But as for the doll or the earring, he doesn't remember either one of how they got in the box or why the piggy bank and they were in there in the first place. So that kind of leads credence to what you're saying. You're saying maybe he said something that this thing was driving me crazy, and somebody made this little totem to put into the box to protect him.
That's right. And seeing the colors of it and what I described there, that makes sense. When I saw the earring and the doll together, generally what people do is like a voodoo doll, they take something of that person, encase it in the voodoo doll, and then either put needles through it or something. But whatever that piece is that has either some sentimental value to them, or it's a piece of their body like their hair or nail or something, that becomes a binder. And that's what I was afraid of, because if you just dispel, if somebody did do something like that and they just dispelled it and did not physically take a good reason to a good way of breaking it properly, it can cause a lot of problems. So I was really worried about that. And like I said, when I see that the things are together inside of a piggy bank, I got a little worried. Because I have seen, like, there was the haunted collector. They went down to Puerto Rico and they went to Ponce de Leon's place. And this one part of the island, when they did a thermal imaging scan, kept showing some type of a heat structure. It was like hot, but it was like cold everywhere else. It was like in the probably the 60s or 50s at nighttime. But this thing was like generating over 80 degrees. So they went over to this piece of land and dug it up, and what they did was they dug up a coconut that was cut in half and then binded together through twine, and inside of it was a voodoo curse. And so I was like, okay, so maybe the piggy bank would be the binding, since we didn't have coconuts that would last that long. And I was trying to figure out maybe what was this earring from. I mean, was this one of his earrings that maybe they put that in there to help protect him from whatever energy this doll is coming off of? There's still a lot of questions that I have, and I just don't have all the answers to that right now. But I did do an investigation.
One of the things that I was going to mention before you get to that part of it was we did hear from him that it was kind of mission accomplished. I sent him an email and I asked him, well, how do you feel now that it's no longer in there? He had this to say: all the way to the post office, normally a drive like that takes under 10 minutes. It felt like an hour. It was 4:30 when we left, and The post office closed at 5, and I didn't want to deal with the puppet any longer than I had to. But the second that box was out of my hands and was on its way to Jason's, I was giddy. I was full of giggles, as my wife says. I will even admit to singing. It's out of our hair. It's like when you've had to worry about something eating at the back of your mind, and all of a sudden it's gone. It was more than a relief, and I'm indefinitely in debt to Jason for taking it. So what do you think about that, Jason, before you tell us about the investigation? So I'm going to call this Even If, and I know the listeners are right now, I want to know. But even if, it was nothing, it helped David out.
Yes, and that's all I could ask for. Like I said, a lot of this was to help him more than anything else. But because of the fact that he did have something that he was worried about by this particular doll, I felt that it would be in my best interest and his best interest to at least investigate it.
And I think it's now time to tell the people what you found. Okay.
So, one of the things that people, try to have a complaint about with dolls is that they move by themselves. So what I did was I took it out, I left it in the garage, and I didn't bring it inside. I refused to bring it inside the house until I knew what was going on with it, because at least the outside of my house is all brick, going around. So it would be harder for it to penetrate if there is something to it. And I protected it, to make sure that if there is energy, it won't come into the house. And I put the piggy bank and the doll together, and I left it there. And now this is like right before the storm. So while the storm was going on, I went outside and I continued in my garage, and I watched. Because you know what? Honestly, if something's going to happen, the energy that comes from the natural disasters like a hurricane, full moon, or anything like that, and all of these happened at the same time. We did have a full moon. We did have a hurricane all in the same weekend. If anything was going to cause that thing to move, that would be the time to do it. And it did not move. I did not see anything different from it every time I came out. We got that before. So after the storm passed and it was safe to travel, my investigator came down. She was a friend of mine that we were training. What we did was we decided to do a simple EVP, which is electronic voice phenomena, and a thermal reading. Now, because it is in the garage, one of the things you got to do is go around a certain amount of area around wherever you are, around each wall, and then go over everything just to find out if there is some type of an EMF spike. Because if there's an EMF spike there, you got to take that in consideration. Now, we did that before we placed the doll in there, so that way we knew what was going on. The only spike I had was over by my circuit breaker panel, and it only lasted to about maybe a foot past the circuit breaker panel. So anything after that was a 0.0 all the way across the board. Then what I did is we started off by pulling the voodoo doll away from the doll. I brought it outside, kept it away, it wasn't even in the house. And ironically, my co-investigator, Cynthia, the one that came down from Ocala, didn't want to go near the doll anymore. And I was like, okay, that's pretty weird. Well, we asked some questions, tried to get it to answer anything. If there was anything attached to the doll, what was it? Where did you come from? What year is it? Who's the president of the United States? What happened to you? Did somebody curse you and put you here? Just all kinds of different questions that we could ask that it might react to. Now, I asked if something was there, if it could at least pull on my shirt, knock my hat off, something. Let me know it's there. Nothing happened. So it did not physically interact with me and do what I asked it to do. After this particular day, I did go out for a couple of times, and I did try to do some EVP work, and I did try to get it to do some other stuff. And I've been doing that for the last couple of weeks, and nothing has happened. It has still yet to interact with me in any way, shape, or form. The doll still has not moved. It is still in the exact same place that I placed this doll when I did the investigation.
So let me kind of summarize that. So the only thing that was strange about it is that your co-investigator just didn't want to be near the doll after you took the voodoo doll away.
Correct.
That's the only real weird thing that happened.
Correct.
Okay.
However, after about an hour to 2 hours of our EVP session, I decided to reintroduce the voodoo doll to the marionette doll. When I did that, my coworker felt fine. She didn't feel weird at all, and she went right up to it. Now, I did take some pictures. I did not see anything. There was no orbs, no anything that you could see. Now, I'm very skeptical about orbs. Being a photographer, I have found so many ways that I can find an orb inside of a picture. And I look at it this way. An orb it's disembodied energy. So now, to kind of give you an idea about that, when you go and you see a spark when you put your plug into the wall, to whatever you're going to plug in, a computer, TV, or whatever, and it sparks, you see that because that's energy. But that is also disembodied energy because it's not technically in the wire anymore. So, if energy is able to be seen, which it is, because we see it every time that there's a lightning storm, we see it every time that there's a spark on something. You can even see it sometimes with static electricity.
Or a hurricane.
You can see it. And therefore, if you can't see the orb with your naked eye, you're probably not seeing an orb. Because you should be able to see energy, and you don't need a camera to pick that up.
That makes sense.
So, every time you see those little onion things that you see in a camera, one of the things I always ask was, did you use flash? Well, yeah, of course I used flash. Well, okay, how do you know that there wasn't a little microscopic piece of dust out there that happens to be made of silica? That it's still a flat surface, and the light is still able to touch it, which means it's going to reflect. Same thing. There's a lot of things in the air we just can't see. But if you've ever gone in front of a window and taken a blanket and slapped it really hard, and then look into the sunlight, you'll see all those particles. Those particles can reflect light. So therefore, there's a good possibility that's what it is. Mm-hmm. And sometimes if you see a white light, generally, if you notice, energy is not necessarily always white. And in pictures, it's always white. And the reason being is that your flash is a cool bulb. It's not designed to be a heavy yellow color, because otherwise it's going to discolor all your photos. It's got to mimic natural light as much as possible. So if you notice that every time you take a photograph and you see this big white bright light, it's because it's reflecting the flash. So I look for those things, and I did not see anything. I did not see anything around the doll. I did not even get a piece of lint or anything else that reflected the flash. But I also took it without flash, because I don't use flash when I'm doing ghost investigations. I did get a slight spike, and I can't say this is anything paranormal, over the doll when I brought the voodoo doll back to it, and it only went to 0.01. So it was a slight degree, but there's also a 0.01 margin of error. So there is a good chance that there is nothing there. And I'm not even calling that paranormal. I'm not saying that it's haunted. I'm not saying that it has anything to do with the other two, the two together. Everything seemed to be pretty good, I thought. But here's a twist. Cynthia, the lady that came down here, went through her EVPs and found that we actually heard 3 voices.
Oh my goodness.
That was not mine, was not Fran's, and it was not Cynthia's voice. And they did say something, and you can hear it pretty clearly.
Oh my word. Do you have those so we can let the people listen to them?
I do have them. But one of them says, good to find. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Another one says, not really. And this one actually interacted with me, which is cool, because Cynthia had asked me, do you need to do a ghost hunt at nighttime? And I said, it's best to do it at nighttime, but you don't have to do it at nighttime, because technically the ghost can be there all the time, So sometimes it's good to do a day one and a nighttime one, because you can sometimes get conflicting things. So sometimes maybe it doesn't happen during the day, but it happens at night. Sometimes it doesn't happen at night, but it happens during the day. So I went on to explain that with her, but you can hear her whispering saying, not really. Right after she says that. She asked me that question.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool. The last one says, thanks.
Well, Jason, let's take a listen and see what we hear now.
Sounds good. Here they go.
This first one, Jason has labeled good to find. The second one is labeled not really, And if you listen, you can really hear this one.
Just out of curiosity, does the time of day matter doing this?
No. It's easier.
The third one is also very obvious. Jason believes it says, thanks.
It's been about 10 minutes. You gotta get going.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, we're gonna close it out for now.
I will have all of these EVPs linked in the show notes so you can hear them for yourself.
Hope you guys heard it pretty well. I did try to enhance it a little bit so you could hear it a little bit better, because it was kind of low. So if you don't have something attached to your ear to really hear it, it is hard to hear. But that was really the only evidence I caught off of this.
Well, let me play the devil's advocate a little bit here, Jason.
Okay.
And say, can you think of any explanation like outside noise from the neighborhood, or could it have been a radio somewhere? Were you isolated enough that you're confident that it wasn't something that was ambient?
I am, because we didn't have anything on in the house at all, including televisions, radios, nothing. We made sure of that. And I also know that the neighborhood, my next door neighbor is a snowbird, so he was up in Minnesota. The guy next to me didn't even come back yet from the hurricane, and the next door neighbor to me, I never see him, nor can I hear him or anything else. Half the time I don't even know he's there. The only thing I did hear from the outside of the area was when a neighbor way across the street dumped a whole bunch of bottles in. And ironically, I had just asked if it would send me a sign and make something move or make a sound. So it did shock us all for a second, and then I quickly realized it was my next door neighbor that was throwing out some bottles and stuff, glass bottles into their trash can.
Give me a sign, crash.
That's exactly what happened. So I can guarantee you that there was nothing ambient about it, and even if there was, they weren't even knowing that we were doing this. So nobody would be able to go outside and make noises or anything like that. Plus that my neighborhood's extremely quiet to begin with. I was pretty confident that it wasn't anything outside, and I didn't hear anybody outside. And these recorders that we had, they were sensitive enough to pick up something within about 25 yards away from us. So if anybody was out there, I would have heard it, and it would have heard it too. And anytime I made a noise, or I heard a noise that we made, even if it's a slight little, I mentioned that in the recording. So there was a fly in there going, and you can hear that. And I did say that was a fly. You can hear a fly flying around. And I heard a crow outside, and that was about the only thing that I could hear to my naked ear, other than the guy throwing away those glass bottles.
Well, let's go ahead and try to wrap this up. Summarize just the whole thing down to a very simple statement. Can you do that? Is that even possible?
Yes, it is. As far as it being haunted, I do not believe it's haunted. However, I do believe that it does have some type of energy attached to it. I do believe that most of the energy is coming from the voodoo doll. I can't say that it wouldn't contain or attract a spirit in the right condition, because there is some type of an energy attached to it, and because it is a handmade doll, somebody physically put their heart and soul into making this particular doll. So it does have the breeding grounds for a lot. I do not believe that there's a spirit. I have not seen a spirit. I have not seen the thing come to life. And I do know that there is some type of interaction between the voodoo doll and the marionette doll, and I'm going to keep them together as a friendship pair. And I think that they were going to be okay. I'm glad it helped David out, and I think that I have a pretty cool piece for some of my upcoming photographs. So you will be able to see this in other ways, and I am going to be posting the report here very soon once we do everything else and put it all together, and it might have links to the files online and stuff like that, so you'll be able to see everything.
Yeah, and I will make sure that I include the pictures that you have sent me in the show notes so that they can get a look at the piggy bank, the voodoo doll, and the Pinocchio doll right there in the show notes. I'm going to offer the only explanation that I can think of as a possibility, I think. And what I'm going to say is this. that there may have been some bad energy. If you think about where the doll came from Afghanistan. Afghanistan is not a friendly place, and so you got to believe that the energy in Afghanistan is not friendly. And if this doll was capable of storing that negative energy, then why couldn't that have been enough to take a young boy and make him feel uncomfortable and could have caused the bad dreams? Also, a grandmother caring about her grandson, maybe he said something to her and said, "Hey, look, this thing is scaring me." But maybe she went and said, "Okay, I got to encase this thing," and maybe she put that in there to protect her grandson. Mm-hmm. And all of this took place 10 years ago. Maybe it did its work. Maybe it drove that energy away, and that's why they are now a friendship pair. Mm-hmm. I'm offering that off the top of my head and kind of let's say a gut instinct of what I think may have happened. And whether you choose to believe it is up to you. I am not offering it other than that, just as a plausible explanation.
And Ron, that's very plausible. And like you said, he is sensitive to energies. And if he sees an energy, it's all how you interpret it. And because of where it comes from, and it does look creepy, he may have interpreted it as something negative. But I don't feel that there's anything negative about it. I just think that there is some energy to it. I can't say it's haunted. But I'm going to continue to monitor it over the next couple of years and months or whatever. And if I do find something different, I will absolutely tell everybody.
Okay. Now, the question that's on my mind, and I've got to know, is when can we expect this to be in one of your art shows? Because you're going to do it, right? You got to put this thing in one of your art shows.
Oh, I'm going to. And I'm probably going to try to interact it with either a model, or I'm going to try to use some of my other dolls that I actually do produce EMF readings. And maybe you might see something pretty cool about it.
Do the puppet strings still work? Is it still functional?
It is functional. I don't know how to use it. I wish I did. But the only one that does not work is that broken leg. But the reason why it's stuck to the puppet and doesn't fall off is because of the marionette string. So,
mystery solved.
Yeah, it's resolved. So I think I can fix this doll.
Awesome. When we first decided to take on dolls, I don't think we had any idea that we were going to be doing 3 shows on the subject.
Right.
As you guys will hear, we've got more responses from people and dolls coming up in the questions later on in the show. I guess I want to say to the listeners, thank you so much for listening to us, first of all, and thank you for thinking of us. And to David Larsen, you're my hero, guy, and thank you for sharing your story. A lot of people would not have. Right.
And you know what? I'm glad he took me up on my offer, because like I did say, I will help anybody that has a question. I will do readings for anybody. I can do tarot card readings and pendulum readings and everything else. So if there's something that's bothering you, I'd be more than happy to help you, and I do not charge for it.
All right. Well, before we get to today's story, and Jason, I got to say, I don't even know what the story is this week. I went ahead and I let the conductor pick it.
Oh, no.
So I have no idea what we're in store for. I'm going to let him introduce it and tell us all about it. And hopefully it's Horror Train appropriate. All right, Jason, I have one more question before we go on to the story. If you were going to say something to David right now, what would it be?
David, I'm glad that you did what you did. I don't want anybody to ever feel uncomfortable with anything around them. And I'm glad that I was able to help you along the way. This is still your doll. If you ever decide you want it back, I will absolutely send it back to you. But just know that it will be taken care of. It will be loved. And I want you to not be afraid to tell people what you've experienced, because everybody thinks that because they see ghosts or they go in these experiences that they're crazy. And I don't believe you're crazy. I don't believe that. I couldn't find any particular ghost attached to this, but that doesn't mean that there isn't something there, And like I said, you can't just snap your fingers and have something appear out of the blue. I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to see if there is anything attached to this thing there. But if there isn't, just know you're not crazy. You just read the energy, and that's how it made you feel. Nothing wrong with that at all. And I'm glad you took steps to do something about it, because there's a lot of people that wouldn't. And because you spoke up, look what it did for you guys and in your family. It made you feel better, and it made your house a better place to live.
And so what I'm going to say to David is thank you again, David. And with that, let's turn it over to the conductor.
Thank you, guys. The story I'm gonna present for this Horror Express comes from the OTR series, Suspense, and was suggested by listener James Thompson of New Mexico. Excellent choice, James, and I will tell you why after we listen. It stars two great actors, Ida DeFino and Vincent Price. It was written by the accomplished screenwriter Lucille Fletcher. Now, the only version I could find of this story had all its commercials taken out. Too bad, too. I love those Roma wine stories. Oh well. Here is Fugue in C minor, which first aired on June 1st, 1944.
April 1st, 1900. Dear Bessie, this is just to let you know that I arrived in Pilotsville. Lizzie met me at the station. She's heartbroken about Papa's bankruptcy and for some reason feels that it's up to me to remedy the family situation. I told her I'd been offered a job, but she swept away that idea in horror.
A girl with your looks, Amanda Peabody, doesn't have to get a job. There are too many rich husbands floating around for that.
Furthermore, she says she has a rich husband already picked out for me right here in Pilotsville.
Don't you remember? I told you about him at Christmas time. He's a Mr. Evans, rich as Croesus, charming, cultured, a lonely widower with two dear little children. And besides that, he's just your type, a real intellectual. You should hear him play the pipe organ.
And you know, Bessie, I've met so few interesting men lately.
And all you'd have to do is lift your little finger. Mr. Evans.
Oh, good evening, Mrs. Chumley. How delightful to see you here.
I'd like you to meet my sister. Mr. Evans, my sister, Amanda Peabody.
Delighted, I'm sure.
It's a lovely party, Mr. Evans.
Thank you, Miss Peabody. Have you just come to Pilotsville?
Yes.
She's down from New York visiting me after the whirl of the hectic social season.
Oh, indeed? Well, I'm afraid our Pilotsville society must seem a bit dull to you, Miss Peabody.
Oh, no, not at all. It's charming. I've enjoyed everything so much tonight. Your beautiful house, the music. I hear you're going to play for us, Mr. Evans.
Oh, a bit. Do you care for organ music, Miss Peabody?
Very much. I never miss a church recital. But what a luxury it must be to have your own pipe organ right here in the house.
I'm afraid I couldn't do without it. It's my hobby, you know. Bach, Buxtehude, César Franck. Don't you adore their work?
Oh, Amanda's very musical. You should hear her render The Burning of Rome.
Yes. And the delightful thing, of course, about having a pipe organ in the house is that it's everywhere. To sit at a keyboard and hear the walls, the ceilings, the floors vibrate. You see, Miss Peabody, I've had the pipes installed all over the house. Under this floor, for example, are all the choir stops. Up in the bedroom walls are the stops for the swell manual. In the great 32-foot pedal stops, the giant diapasons are underneath the staircase. My children sleep next door to the echo chamber. So, you see, we live like angels here in a paradise of music.
How thrilling.
Now, ladies, come upstairs to the second floor landing, won't you? And I'll show you the console. It was made for me in Vienna.
April 7th, 1900. And Bessie, dear, to tell you the truth, I really find him fascinating. I wish you could hear him play. It sweeps you off your feet. There is such wildness to it, and at the same time such dignity. And to hear the sound all through that marvelous house, rolling through those gorgeous rooms with their beautiful tapestries and potted palms. I could sit and listen to him all night.
You have the most amazing eyes, Miss Peabody. What are you thinking about?
The music. Oh, please don't stop. It's so beautiful.
Well, you seem to be as mad about music as I am. Your sister says you play too.
Oh, no, only a little. My appreciation of it is all inside, I'm afraid.
That's plenty. If one can't play, it's better just to enjoy the music of others. I can't bear this sentimental drumming, can you?
I shouldn't think you would enjoy it.
The idiotic tunes people play nowadays. Give me the old stern classics. They have strength and power. Give me something with life to it, something that will flood the whole house with sound.
Marvelous.
You're a very unusual girl, Miss Peabody. Quite unlike the run of girls down here at Pilotsville.
Yes, in what way?
Oh, it's rather hard to explain. Some more tea, Amanda?
No, thank you.
A muffin?
No, thank you. You have an excellent cook, Mr. Evans.
Please call me Theodore. You know you promised.
Theodore?
Amanda.
And your house is beautifully run, too. You must have an excellent housekeeper. Everything always looks so charming and quiet. I haven't even heard a peep out of your children.
My children? Oh, yes, the children have been away at school.
You have two, haven't you?
Yes, Daphne and David.
What sweet names.
Ordinarily, I don't approve of schools for young children, but you see, they were rather overwrought. After Mrs. Evans passed on...
I can well understand.
They were almost morbidly devoted to their mother, and then, of course, the unfortunate circumstances of her death, but I suppose your sister, Mrs. Chumley, has told you all about that.
No, not very much, except your wife was killed in a street accident, wasn't she?
Yes, in Philadelphia. A brewery wagon and 4 horses ran her down.
Oh, how terrible.
It's something I don't like to think about very often. Poor, beautiful Margaret. Well, it's like a nightmare, Amanda, and I still can't feel reconciled, but... Well, what I was driving at was the children. They were in school when she died, and by some malicious stroke of fate, there was an epidemic of scarlet fever raging up there. The authorities wouldn't lift the quarantine and let them out for her funeral.
Oh, poor little things.
Yes, it upset them dreadfully. In fact, I sometimes fear it's left a mark on them which may endure all their lives.
Why, what do you mean?
They suffer from delusions about her. They think that in some way she is linked... Her soul is imprisoned in the organ pipes.
How horrible.
I wish I could do something about it. It's a frightful notion, but they won't. They don't let me play when they're at home. That echo chamber in particular, next door to their bedroom.
Yes?
You know, it's nothing but an empty sealed room with a few wires. Of course, it's all because they never saw her dead. But they have a notion that she's, well, somehow hidden there.
How ghastly. They really think that, do they? Children can think up such very strange things in their little minds. Can't they? April 18th. I met the children today, Bessie, for the first time. It was a shock. They're strange little creatures, utterly unlike their father. The girl is about 11 and the boy 8. They were both dressed in deep mourning. Their large grey eyes seemed strained with terror. They listened and trembled at every sound.
This is Miss Peabody, children. She's a very good friend of mine. Now, I want you both to shake hands with her. Oh, come now, Daphne. You can at least tell Miss Peabody how old you are.
Oh, no. Please don't press her. I know when I was a little girl, I hated people to talk about my age. I'd much rather hear about school.
We're not going back there, no matter what anybody says.
David.
That's all right. Then you didn't like school?
No, and Mommy didn't like it either. She cried when we went away.
Oh, but your Mama wanted you to be educated, didn't she? She wanted you to grow up and be intelligent people, didn't she? Well, didn't she, Daphne?
Who are you?
You may call me Aunt Amanda. I'm a friend of your Papa's.
Do you know where my Mama is?
Your Mama? Well, your Mama's in heaven, dear.
No, she's not.
Then where is she, dear?
Please don't start them off, Amanda. It's too upsetting. Come along, children. Now we're going to have a little music, like old times. You remember when your mother was alive? We all used to play together. David, you with your cornet, and Daphne at the violin, and Mama at the piano. Well, Miss Peabody plays the piano, too. And she's promised to play Narcissus, Mama's favorite piece. Well?
Well, Perhaps some other time, Theodore, when they don't feel so strange.
I tell you, I've humored them to death. Now, come, David. There's your cornet on the mantelpiece. And Daphne?
No.
I insist. Look, now, I'll start the melody on the organ. David, you come in with your cornet obbligato in the third measure. Daphne, you can follow me.
What's that?
Come along, children.
What's that note? That note making that funny noise.
What note? Oh, you mean that? Oh, that's just a cipher. A wire must have stuck somewhere. One of the pipe valves.
It's Mama. That's where Mama is. She's calling for us.
Oh, don't be silly. I'll just hit the key a few times and it'll stop. You've heard these ciphers before, haven't you, Miss Peabody?
Well, I don't know much about pipe organs.
It's a common technical occurrence, but very annoying, of course.
What is she doing in there? Why doesn't it stop? That's where she is. She's in the pipe and she can't get out.
Daphne, stop that nonsense.
Oh, hush, dear. Your papa will fix it.
No, he won't. He can't. She won't let him because he killed her.
Daphne, what did you say?
Oh, she didn't mean it, I'm sure. The poor little thing's hysterical. We should never have tried to persuade them.
Oh, Amanda. Just because they never looked upon her face, because they never saw her lying there in the coffin.
Hush, hush.
My own children believe that I am a murderer.
Theodore, you're making them both sick.
As though I who loved their mother so much, who was so devoted for 12 years. Do I look like a murderer, Amanda? Do I?
No.
There it is again. It's Mama. It's Mama.
Shh, dear. I'll take them upstairs for you, Theodore, while you try and fix it. April 24th. Oh, Bessie. Those poor little children. We took them out to the cemetery today to show them her grave. A marble angel guarded it. It was planted with pure white tulips. How final it was and peaceful. And yet they began to tremble again the moment we set foot inside the house. Poor Theodore. The man is nearly out of his mind. What can he do? I keep asking myself that question. She died in Philadelphia, you say?
Yes, on May 15th, just a little less than a year ago.
You weren't with her?
No, she went there to take a piano lesson. There was a new teacher she'd heard about. She was always so self-conscious about her technique. But she never reached his studio. They notified me at midnight from the city morgue.
And no one in Philadelphia saw her?
No one except the attendants at the morgue, of course, and the people who picked her up after the collision. It was such a brutal accident.
There'd been no one from among them who could speak to the children, explain to them?
Oh, no. Oh, it's so horrible, so sordid.
Oh, I know, my dear. I hate to make you suffer. But if we could find some way, if they could just believe. When you brought her back here to Pilotsville, there was a funeral.
Yes.
And was there anybody then who saw her?
Oh, no, I couldn't bear it, Amanda. I didn't think at the time. She'd been so beautiful. Her lovely, sweet, gentle face and her eyes. The horses had completely trembled.
Oh.
Even if the children had been able to come home, I wouldn't have let them look. The coffin was sealed when I left Philadelphia. I didn't want to see her again myself.
But there was a funeral. People came. There were flowers, an undertaker.
Yes?
Well, if they could believe that, if there was one witness, perhaps my own sister Lizzie.
Funeral, Amanda? Of course there was a funeral. The finest funeral in town. A snow-white hearse and 25 coaches. Everybody sent flowers. The casket wasn't open, but I've been to lots of funerals where they don't open the casket. And from what I understand, she was pretty badly mangled. But it was a beautiful funeral. Mr. Evans played the organ himself, the finest selections. All the sweet old pieces his wife liked. There was Narcissus and Mighty Like a Rose and Goodbye Forever.
That's the way it was. So you see, David, my sister, Mrs. Chumley, was there.
Yes, but how did she know it was Mama?
Oh, David.
She didn't see Mama, did she?
Well, nobody saw your poor Mama, dear. She wouldn't have wanted anyone to see her.
Mommy wasn't there. She talks to us every night. She tells us to look for her.
Where, dear?
In the pipes.
But, David, your Mama's dead. She's been dead for nearly a year. Now, you saw her grave out in the cemetery. She's happy and at rest.
Why doesn't Papa give us a key? If he'd only let us have it, we could look for her.
What key, dear?
The keys to the pipes. There's a little door just underneath the stairs. That's where the big pipes are. And inside it's all dark. But there are the tunnels. There's a little room. A little room.
Dear.
That's where she's hiding. That's where Mommy is. That's where Mommy is.
Oh, David, darling, now look, come here.
No, I hate you.
But why do you hate me? Why don't you let me help you?
Because
Because what?
you like him.
Him?
Papa, you're going to marry him, aren't you? Yes, you are. Tafina says you are. You're going to marry him. Then he'll send us back to school. There'll be no one left to help Mama. Poor Mama will never be left out. Oh, I hate you. I hate you.
David, what are you doing here? David, did you strike Miss Peabody?
He's sick, Theodore. I'm sure he's very sick.
Now go to your room at once. Oh, those dreadful children. I tell you, Amanda, they'll ruin whatever happiness we might have.
Theodore, I love you very much. But I couldn't marry you. Not with that child's cry ringing in my head. We've got to help them. Give them that key. Let them go and look in the room where the pipes are. Then they'll see for themselves that there's no ghost.
Key? Who told you about a key to that room?
The children.
The children? Amanda, I'm going to tell you something I've never told to a living soul. It may frighten you.
Yes.
Margaret was going mad when she died.
Oh.
No one knew it but me. It ran in her family. I discovered it long after we were married, after the children were born. Otherwise, I'd never have...
And now you think the children?
I'm afraid so. It was peopling of sound she had, just like them. A fear of the dead's returning. She used to play... What's that?
Sounds like the organ.
But the motor isn't on. The console was locked when I left.
Someone's trying to play.
No one but me can touch that instrument. It's forbidden in this house, and the servants are out. Unless those children... Come upstairs, Amanda.
Theodore. Why, there's no one here. No one at the keyboard. The organ's playing itself.
That's impossible. The motor's not going.
The motor?
Yes, it sets the bellows going. There's no air in the pipes unless it's on. No air to make the pipes speak. It's impossible, I tell you.
Perhaps the children found the key and got in.
Key? No. The key's here in my pocket.
There's no other way in.
No.
Theodore, open that door. Go in there and see what's happening, please.
No.
Theodore.
I won't give in. I won't be a prey to it. Do you hear? I won't. I won't. Here. It's stopped now.
Yes.
It was probably nothing but the wind.
Theodore, give me the key. I'm not afraid.
Are you saying that I am?
I don't know. But I'll be fair with you, Theodore. I couldn't marry you and live here with that any more than your children can.
What do you mean?
Rip out those pipes. Rip out the whole pipe organ. Give it to a church, but don't keep it here.
Get rid of
it's
the
not
pipe
worth it.
organ?
Yes.
But I couldn't. The whole house was built around it. It's been the very soul and spirit of this home.
It's been the curse, you mean. Theodore, I know I'd go mad, too, if I had to listen to it night and day. It's so hollow. Think of those pipes so huge down there in the darkness. I'd begin to hear things, too. Oh, Ed!
Be quiet. Be quiet. Come outside. We'll take a walk.
No, give me the key. Give me the key.
You're hysterical, Amanda. I'm sorry I've overburdened you.
Why don't you want to go in there? Is it because you know something? You did something?
What do you mean?
Did you kill her?
Amanda. Very well, Amanda. Here's the key. If that's the way you trust me, we'll go down and look around together. Come now, Amanda.
I'm sorry, Theodore. It slipped out. It was a dreadful thing to say.
It's all right, I understand. Yet it hurts a little. I've trusted you so completely, Amanda.
Theodore.
Yes, Amanda?
Let's not go in there. I do trust you, darling. I believe everything you've told me.
No. This little key, to think it should mean so much.
How black it is.
Yes, pitch black.
And cold. Where are the pipes? I can't see them.
Come in further, Amanda. You'll see them as soon as your eyes grow accustomed to the darkness. The biggest pipes packed this well under the great staircase like giants.
Oh, yes, I'm beginning to see them now. Shouldn't we go and get a candle?
Oh, no. Go in a little further. Be careful. The floor's a maze of wires. Now stand there for a second.
Theodore, don't leave me.
I won't be long. I thought you said you weren't afraid.
No, I'm not only... Where are you going?
Just upstairs to play for you.
Theodore!
I'd like you to hear how the music sounds in the darkness. It's quite an experience being so close to the pipes. You know, narrow, suffocating, especially when I play the great Passacaglia and Fugue of Bach.
Oh, Theodore, please. I don't want to stay
Perhaps
here.
one of the Rheinberger symphonies or the great chorales of César Franck. Margaret, of course, preferred Narcissus.
Margaret?
You're very gullible, Amanda.
Then you did kill her. You killed her in this room. And you're going to kill me.
Yes, simple, isn't it?
But why?
I don't
Why?
know. One gets tired every now and then of mere music. Sometimes the classics demand competition. A scream, for example. There's something so exciting about pulling out all the stops and drowning out all human sound. Have you ever tried to match your voice, Miss Peabody, against the thunderous voice of Bach? It's most effective. And then when the struggle gets weaker, when the air is almost gone and you choke and gasp for breath, to bring the music down softer, softer.
Theodore, you're mad. You're mad.
Come, Amanda. Would you deny me that pleasure?
No.
I promise you the concert won't be too long. It takes about 8 hours before the air gives out. But you know, I could play for days. And don't worry about the children. I think you've convinced them about the ghost. What's that?
Theodore!
Someone shut the door. It's locked and the key's outside. Who's there? Let me out! Let me out!
Theodore!
Get away from me. Let me out, do you hear? Let me out! Let me out! I can't breathe! I'm suffocating. It's so dark. I can't breathe. Let me out, please! Please! I can't breathe. I can't... No, don't. I can't. Let me out. I can't breathe.
Theodore! Theodore! Let me out! Let me out! He's dead! He's dead! Daphne! David, where are you? Open the door! Help me! Help me! Oh, no! No! Help! May 1st, 1900. I shall be coming home in a few days, Bessie. I still can't sleep at night. I still hear that laughter. Still hear that cornet playing its unearthly music. And Theodore Evans once more lies dead at my feet. It was his heart, Bessie. He died of fright. In those few moments, he anticipated the hideous fate he had meted out to so many. And I might have died there if he had not gone so quickly. But the children hated me. They wanted to kill us both. Those terrible, pathetic children. What horrors they must have sensed in that charnel house. There were other women beside his wife. The police found them all buried and stuffed away into unused parts of the pipe organ. Bessie, I was in that pipe room alone with him for 4 hours before that door creaked open. There they stood, and I shall never forget their faces or the things they said.
All right, Miss Peabody. You can come out now if you're really sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you sure he's quite dead?
Yes, he's dead.
We were right all the time, weren't we, Miss Peabody?
Yes, you were right.
Now, will you come and help us find Mama?
Isn't that a killer? I had never thought of using a pipe organ to rid myself of, well, you know who. I think I'll have one installed on the train and hook it up to the loudspeakers. Might not have the same as Mr. Price's organ, but one can hope. That story was suggested by listener James from New Mexico. Thank you, James, for listening. And your free pass to ride the train is on its way to you. If you dare. Well, I send it back now to the boys.
Wow. Death by pipe organ. The conductor outdid himself, Jason. I'm going to give him kudos for that story.
Yes, and you know, I love Vincent Price. He's one of my favorite actors, and he did a good job.
You know what I noticed about Vincent Price?
What's that?
He can play anything, but when he's playing horror, he is just off the charts good.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree. I mean, he's done some movies that are so amazing, and he's got the voice for even radio. I mean, he is the ultimate actor. He can do pretty much anything, but he fits everything.
All right, have you ever heard anything like this before in your life? Now, be honest.
Well, no.
Death by pipe organ? How original is that? And why isn't that a movie somewhere?
You know, that you have a good point. That would be a great movie.
Oh.
And I'm surprised it hasn't been turned into one, especially if Vincent Price was in it.
I gotta say, that's something else. That is really special. And you know, Jason, I would love to sit and talk about it some more, but we really should get to the emails today. We've talked so much already. And we have a bunch of people that want us to talk to them. So what do you say we shelve Vincent and just say, well done, Mr. Conductor?
I agree. Let's do this.
All right, Jason, what do you got for us?
Well, first of all, you know, there's something very special that we always have to incorporate, because if we don't, we're not doing our shameless plug. But we have a website, I believe, right?
We do? Really? Honestly? What's it called?
You know, I think it's thehorrorexpress.com.
Well, I've been there, and you're exactly right. It is thehorrorexpress.com. You know, there's been a lot of pickup. A lot of people have come to the website and signed up for the newsletter. You know what I say to those people?
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not doing this for nothing.
Exactly. Anyway, yes, we do have a website. And you know what? We haven't been updating it much. And that is not because we don't want to. It's just because, well, there was a hurricane. And then I've had some back problems. The people that listen to Ron's Amazing Stories know all about that. And so... But we do have a plan for the site, so don't give up on us. And of course, anytime we do a Horror Express, it gets updated then. So be self-aware and get yourself on thehorrorexpress.com. Did that almost rhyme?
That did, and it sounded very professional, too.
All right, Jason, what else do you want to talk about?
So, you know, one of the things that makes this so amazing, and sometimes we actually can turn this stuff into a show, is people's stories. And I think we need more of them. I mean, look what we just did. You know, this guy told us his story. He sent us a doll, and look what we were able to do with it. So this is important.
Well, I got to say, if you have something like what David Larsen sent in, I can't say enough about David and him willing to put himself out there like that. That is just fantastic stuff. But if you have another story that you think that we could sink our teeth in, please send it to us. And you know what? You can go to the horrorexpress.com and tell us all about it right there.
Another shameless plug. I love it. You're on a roll today.
Okay, Jason. So I know we got a ton of emails, and we're going to have to curtail a lot of them because this show is running a little long. And we are on the radio, so therefore we do have to watch time.
Yes, we do. And I don't want that to actually hinder somebody from wanting to get out there and share with us what they want to talk to us about or what they want to share, or if they have a story themselves. But I think we might have a pretty good solution coming up.
Well, I was thinking, we have this website, horrorexpress.com, and why not some of the emails, why don't we answer them there?
Yeah, that would be good, and that's kind of like one of those things. So if somebody has never heard that show, but it's something that might interest them, they can find it without having to search through all the shows to get an answer. So I like that idea.
So I don't know how we're going to implement that, and we certainly can't do it with the emails that we've already got. But we're going to put some work onto that. And Jason and I have also talked about the idea of writing articles for the website. And I was thinking, like example, I was thinking maybe I would do something about horror on the radio and, how well it did and why it did so good. And hey, maybe Jason, you could do something on ghost hunting.
Yes, I could. I've been to a lot of places, and actually I would love to be able to tell some of these places I've been to and some of the things I've seen and some of the places that just interest me, but I just haven't had a chance to because we got so many diverse topics and little time to talk about them, really.
Exactly. So, I don't know. It's some ideas that we're playing with to get the website more friendly, more usable, and certainly a place that you're going to want to go. We're working on making that a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And that place was?
thehorrorexpress.com, and this time I get to do it. Yay!
All right, Jason, let's get to the real emails that we are going to talk about today.
Yes, let's do this. Okay, so we have one from Joanne Steinberg. She wrote on Facebook, actually, in reference to Ron's Yoda impression a few shows back, and she says, "Hi, guys, I love the show, but I believe the quote is do or do not, there is no try, / Yoda, ...
Well, you know what? I did go back and I listened to what I said on that show, and I was wrong and she's right. So I'm going to correct it right now. Here we go. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right.
Do or do not, there is no try.
How was that?
That was very good.
Well, thank you, Joanne. I appreciate it. And you know what? I'm glad you like the show even with my bad Yoda impression.
Hey, that's a pretty good Yoda impression, and the only one that I can really do that's really good is the Budweiser ferret. So consider yourself lucky.
What does the Budweiser ferret sound like? Oh, Jason, keep your day jobs. I know you got more than one.
You never could understand him because he never said anything. It wasn't like the Budweiser lizards, but Louis and something else. I don't remember what the other one was, but yes, I like the ferret. I did like the ferret.
Okay. All right, there you have it, folks. We're going to rename the show The Horror Express and Impressions. Okay. What else we got, Jason?
Okay, we got Mike Wiener, and he wrote, "The Horror Express, where have you been all my life? Hee, Ron. The more of you I hear, the more I enjoy your shows." Okay, I sounded like a fanboy, but so be it. Wait, I'm 55. Fan man. LOL. Really quick, when using Pocket Cast, I couldn't find the Horror Express as a separate podcast. Is it one? Mike.
Well, I think you can answer that one, and I certainly can.
Go ahead. I think he wants to talk to you.
Well, the answer, Mike, is very simple. Ron's Amazing Stories and the Horror Express, for now and for who knows how long, are on the same RSS feed. And that is by design because both Jason and I are cheap. We don't want to pay for another provider to host the Horror Express when Ron's Amazing Stories can do it just fine.
That's right. I can pinch a half shilling out of a penny.
That's the real reason. Is honestly, we've done 19 shows, and if we were doing it every week, I think that we would spring for its own RSS feed, but we don't. So if you're subscribing to Ron's Amazing Stories, you get the Horror Express as a bonus, or if you're subscribing to the Horror Express, then you get Ron's Amazing Stories as a bonus. However you want to look at it.
Well, I think we got another one for you.
For me?
Ready? Yeah, for you. His name is Omar Kadari, and he sent an email. It said, "Hi, guys. I love the Horror Express. I'd like to give that conductor a thing or two. But anyways, here's my question. Where can I listen to Lights Out, their complete broadcast from 30s and the 40s? I caught the bug by listening to your previous Horror Express podcast and just found those Lights Out episodes amazing, especially the one with the poltergeist."
Ooh, that was a good one.
It was. The storytelling just sent gothic images in my head and chills down my spine. An amazing fan, Omar.
Well, Omar, I think that's a great question. The easiest way to get the full Lights Out list is to go to the internet database, and that's just internet.org, and then just search for Lights Out single episodes, and you're going to find all of them listed together there. They made something like 500 Lights Out, and only 200 of them exist today. But there are 200 of them waiting for you there. And not all of them are good quality. The live shows, the ones that they record live, are really difficult to listen to. But the transcribed ones are excellent quality, and I highly recommend them. And of course, Lights Out was a classic series.
Yes, it was. So we have another email. I think I might answer this one. I don't know, but it's and I'm sorry if I massacre the name. I'm trying to phonetically pronounce it, but it's Sunday Diaz or Diaz?
I think that's right. I think it's Sunday Diaz.
Anyways, they sent this to us via the Horror Express website.
What was that website again?
thehorrorexpress.com. Okay.
Sorry, we're not supposed to have fun while we do this, are we?
No, we're not. But it's good that we are. All right. So, are you ready for what they say? It says, "I wish I could listen to the Horror Express every day and twice on Sundays." And you know what? You can. All you have to do is just replay it. It says, haha, fun. Is the conductor married, and does he have a eHarmony account? Thanks for all the great shows, and I will never think of Dolls the Same again Sunday. Could you imagine his picture?
Oh. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm going to get it under control.
Yeah. Swipe left, please. Yeah, that's like one of those, and you know he's going to Photoshop himself on there, so I don't really know if you should trust his picture, because if he does have one, he's all bones and skin, so he's probably going to add about 50 pounds to himself. He's probably going to make himself look like Fabio, even though he's bald and kind of looks more like the guy from the Harry Potter movies, so that little gray-looking goblin thing.
Just so you know, Sunday, earlier in the show, we mistaked him for Chupacabra. I'm sorry, that one just made me giggle.
It's a good one, though. I like that. I like that they did that.
Did she say anything? Oh, she did say something else. I totally missed it.
Yes, she did say, she goes, "Thanks for the great shows, and I will never think of Dolls the Same again."
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Sunday.
Yes.
I'm going to leave all that in. I'm not going to cut any of that down.
No, you can't.
Okay. I think we only have one more today, Jason.
Yes, we do. And this is Jackie from Minnesota, who sent in her actual doll story. So this is going to be fun. And she says, "When I was about 12 years old, my brother and I would put on puppet shows. We got pretty good at it, and we would perform at retirement homes and rehab centers. One day, an elder man asked my mother if he could give us a puppet that he had since he was a child. It was a boy walking his dog, and she said, okay. So we followed the man to his room. It turned out that he was a collector, and his room was a wonderland of puppetry. That could be a horror room for some people.
Yeah.
We had a very nice visit with him, and he taught us how to use the complicated puppet. When we got home that evening, my brother and I set out to working out a skit using our new friend. I don't know why, but my brother took to it right away. It was like he had been using it for months. The thing just danced at the end of its strings. Later, we returned to that retirement home and performed the new skit. The elder man had tears in his eyes the whole time. After the show, he came up to my brother and told him that his puppet had finally found a home. He tried to give it away many times, and every time it returned to him with some very scary stories. His favorite puppet was finally happy again. My brother still has that puppet today and still uses it to perform shows." Jackie.
I got chills.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is something. So that goes to what your theory on dolls is all the time, is it's like two energies fit together. I'm still having chills.
That's right.
That's two energies that just fit. And he gave the thing away and it kept coming back to him.
Yeah.
Huh.
Kind of sounds familiar, but not exactly, right?
Well, yeah, but it's unique.
It is.
Wow. Thank you, Jackie. That's special. That's one that it just brings the whole doll thing to a nice crescendo, if you will.
That's right.
Not all dolls are going to be good dolls, and not all dolls are going to be bad dolls, and some dolls could be good and bad.
Yeah.
The jury is still out on David Larsen's puppet, but here we go. Another puppet. And you think about that for just a minute before we close. I know we got to go, but I want to say this. The act of puppetry, correct me if I'm wrong, is you really have to put yourself into it. It's all you controlling and trying to convey emotion, correct?
That is absolutely correct. I mean, you gotta realize a lot of these puppeteers, some of them, the more complex ones, have like almost like a tic-tac-toe type of board that's stuck together with strings coming off of it, and they find a way of making it work without moving the other parts of the doll. So literally, you are putting yourself through those strings into that doll and making it lifelike. So it's an absolute amazing art form. And I don't know if you've seen like America's Got Talent, the one that just won that. She was an amazing ventriloquist. And look what she was able to do. I mean, it takes an extreme talent, and it's an amazing art form. And you do put 100% of yourself into those dolls.
Well, I'm going to say it again. Thank you, Jackie from Minnesota. That is an incredible story, and I think it's a wonderful way to end this, I think. And I'm not going to say we're done with dolls yet.
Probably not.
It just seems like every time we think we're done, people keep saying, no, you're not. Listen to my doll story.
And that's okay. We want to hear it.
That's right. Oh, yeah, definitely. If you've got another doll story that you want to share, hey, please do it. And in fact, if you've got anything that you want to tell us, you need help with a ghost problem, you want to talk about it, you want us to talk about it, you have a problem with finding an old-time radio story on the internet, anything that you want to ask us, please do. That's why we're here. Mm-hmm. Jason, I'm going to give you the last word. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to go turn my mic off and start laughing again.
Well, I know this has been one amazing journey so far, and I'm very blessed to be able to have done what I have done with this doll so far. And I know it's not going to end up stopping there. I know we're going to continue to do more, and hopefully I'll have some more updates along the way, and I'm very excited to be able to do that. But what I'm most happy about this entire situation is that we were able to help somebody feel better about themselves and feel better about the situation. Enhancing anybody's life is something special, and it doesn't necessarily take much to do that. And that's what I like about putting something forward. And if anybody goes out there and sees somebody that's in distress, maybe just do something very special, something very, very simple. Maybe it's buying somebody a coffee. Maybe it's just sitting down and listening to their story. But it's amazing what a little kindness can do in such a major way.
Well said, Jason. Well said. All right, with that, Mr. Conductor, take us home. Or throw us off the train, whichever. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Well, guys, thanks for another great show. I guess we have to thank David Larsen for sharing his story, but if the truth be told, I would much rather he come on the train so I can throw him off it. It's so much fun. On the next train ride, Jason and Ron will have a UFO-based discussion and will talk about the alien bodies recently found in Peru. Some of my best friends are ghastly alien creatures bent on world domination. It's true. Well, that's it for the Horror Express this time. If you have questions or comments for Jason, Ron, or myself, please go to the website at thehorrorexpress.com and use the comments section or email us at ronsamazingstories@gmail.com. Tweeters should tweet us at RAS Podcast. Oh yes. Now the bad news. There's no way off this train. You're gonna have to jump. Good luck, and see you next time on the Horror Express.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.